this is our product session, but we're also going to be doing a product demonstration with one of our design consultants. So we'll do a bit of an overview around 6.4. Many of you have been using Gravity Sketch, have seen 6.4 come out and see some of the improvements to it. This will let you get a little bit under the minds behind 6.4 and some of the rationale of why we built 6.4. But we'll also get to see that in action, which is going to be great. And we'll tease a little bit around 6.5, which builds a lot on the work that we were doing in 6.4, but takes it a little bit further as well. And so in addition to that session, we'll have a little bit more around how do you apply these tools in a real workflow. And so Žofia, one of our design consultants, will be joining, and we'll be designing, but also applying this workflow insights that we've gotten through building this part of our product set. We'll be applying those to a vehicle. We're designing around like a small autonomous vehicle, and we want to really lean into materials, colors, and reviewing from that perspective. We'll explore how Gravity Sketch in VR can be used for quick concepting and development, and Gravity Sketch from a cross-platform perspective with screen and VR can be used for a more inclusive culture of design review and collaboration. And we'll also be using assets that were built outside of Gravity Sketch to bring those in to do a little bit more review work, but also to better understand the full context in which the vehicle is sitting within. Here at Gravity Sketch, we really do pride ourselves at taking in this feedback, trying to build workflow solutions, not just a solution that kind of fits a certain niche, but actually a solution that fits into this broader workflow around design, collaboration, and communication. And so we encourage you to continue to share, give feedback, add comments, especially as we go through these critical parts of the product that we've been working on so diligently for the past few years. And so I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat and throughout the demonstration, but also when we're talking about some of the stuff that's coming to 6.5, because we do take your feedback quite seriously, and everything you've seen in 6.4 came directly from our users and our customers and the requests that they had based on real workflow needs. So with that being said, I think it's more appropriate to allow the people that are responsible for delivering the product to the stage. Deho and Bruno from Product and Design. Welcome to the stage.
Hey everyone. Can you all see the slides okay? I'm guessing yes. But yeah, thanks Shay. Great to be here with you all today. And yeah, we're really excited to tease some of the things going into the next big update, which is coming up in a few weeks' time. But yeah, I wanted to firstly thank you all for the feedback so far on the recent 6.4 update. It's, yeah, as Shay mentioned, always super helpful in helping us really figure out what we should be building towards and also how to iterate on things. So yeah, just as a quick way of introduction, I'm Deho. I look after product here at Gravity Sketch, which means I try to spend a lot of time speaking with our users and our customers to figure out what the best direction of travel is from a product perspective. And I'm joined here by my colleague Bruno as well. Do you want to do a quick intro, Bruno?
Yeah, can do. I'm sorry if I start coughing right away. It's been a rough day. But yeah, I'm Bruno. I'm head of design here at Gravity Sketch. And yeah, me and Deho spend a lot of time together. Also with Shay and Daniel and everyone else on the team, looking at all of your feedback and coming up with a lot of the solutions that you're going to see today.
Cool. So yeah, today I wanted to start by talking through what our focus is for 2025. And for me, it ultimately ties back to our mission, which is, helping people bring better products to life. And we always think of this, there kind of being like two sides of the equation to this, right? So the first side is the creation part, and then the other is the collaboration part, essentially because you need to then communicate what you've designed or created. In terms of creation, we want to make it easier for our users to bring what's in their minds into a design that can then be later communicated. And we know there's a lot of work left to be done on this side, but equally we're also confident that there are also some already strong workflows to be had here. But but there are some real big debts in terms of the collaboration side of things. So this year we want to really focus on making it a lot easier to share work and communicate in 3D all within Gravity Sketch. I've jotted down a few themes here on this slide that we're investing in order to improve this collaboration experience. Firstly, making the product experience collaborative by default. What I mean by this is we don't want our users to have to worry about, whether they started work in a solo sketch room or a collab room. Probably, or you shouldn't really have to worry about different types of rooms at all. Everything should be collaborative and online by default. The other important piece to collaboration for us is really leveraging the power of the community. So we've heard time and time again, basically every time we ask you guys or do a poll, we hear that you want to see more of each other's work, to learn and be inspired by one another's work, right? So at the moment, you need to kind of probably go on Instagram, I guess, and search the Gravity Sketch handle to do that. And we want to make it easier to find and browse work from the community, and also to find one another, right? All through the Gravity Sketch platform. And then we want to make it easier to access Gravity Sketch itself. So, when you have something you want to show your friends or colleagues and you share a room with them, we don't want them to have to, faff around with setting up an account, then going and downloading and installing an app and so on and so forth. We really want to make this a seamless experience. So if you send them a link or a code or whatnot, they can just, it's just one click to join directly from the web browser. And then, the final piece to this is, of course, playing nice with the existing tools that you're using and workflows is super important for us. And we want to make it as very seamless as possible to bring in assets, from other software that you might be using to review or maybe continue working on. But also whatever work you create in Gravity Sketch, for us, it's really important that it's able to fit into your workflow, meaning you've done your reviews and collaboration and you got what you need. Now let's export it downstream to other software to continue the workflow. Next slide, please. So, I wanted to give a very quick whistle-stop tour of our most recent release, 6.4. So we already started building on this theme of collaboration, right? And we did that by focusing on improving visuals to give our users more confidence when presenting and collaborating directly in Gravity Sketch. So you can see in the screenshots, the new color materials panel and some of the material presets we added more recently as well. And then next slide, please. And here I just, put some side-by-side screenshots of what these new materials have enabled for our new users. The visuals is such a critical component to communicating design intent. And we really wanted to, we heard from you guys a lot as well, but we really wanted to give that ability and that confidence to designers. Next slide, please. Yes, the other thing we invested in was also our screen app, which, hopefully many of you are aware. But if it's new for you, it's essentially an app that runs on just ordinary laptops and PCs. Doesn't need VR, doesn't need to be like super powerful PCs or anything. Just normal laptops to make it easier for you to share your ideas with friends and colleagues who don't necessarily have a VR headset. So they can join you in real time in a collaborative session while you're in VR and they might just be on their laptops. You can view, you can, talk to each other all around this 3D scene. And one of my personal favorite additions with this update was the ability to import and move objects around with the screen app, because I think this really opens up workflows for users who want to collaborate and review files like in 3D in Gravity Sketch, who don't have a VR headset yet. And then final slide for me. I guess this is an exciting bit. I'll hand over to my colleague Bruno to walk us through some snapshots of what's to come in the next big release. So over to you, Bruno.
Cool. So let's talk 6.5. I'm sorry for my voice in advance. If people can't hear me, let me know. Let's start with lighting environments. So that's quite exciting. Obviously, as you saw for 6.4, we tackled lighting materials first, but the big part of actually getting the visuals that you want has a lot to do with the environment where those objects sit in. So this is kind of the UX that we currently have on the app that you probably know. As you can see, there's a few issues with it, starting with, for example, being buried in 3 levels down inside of settings, for example. Has some limited amount of presets for you to play around with, and the options available to them are not very useful for certain workflows. There's also some limitations, not limitations, but it's a bit hard to understand the interdependencies of all the options that you have available, especially once you go into those customs and you open the bigger panel. And on top of it, and quite important, especially with the talk around the materials, is lighting controls and what options, what do we give you in terms of controlling lighting within the scene. So if we move to the next slide, please. We can just start with a very basic overview. So we'll go this step by step. And by the way, these designs are not totally final. Obviously, they'll be extruded in 3D. They'll have more options available to it. But it is just to give you an overview of how we're thinking in UX architecture. Pretty much we just decided to tackle each of those problems in a scalable way that allows us to keep expanding the amount of features that's available to you. This is just a quick overview, but let's go to the next slide to take a deeper look. So starting from the beginning. So if you see on the menu now, you'll have an entry point straight for the environments themselves. On top, you'll have a tab system just dedicated to environments. So the first one will be just your default presets. Those presets will be new, so we'll be changing them slightly based on the current ones that you have available so far. But we'll also give you some options for each of those presets so you can take more advantage of them. So the idea here is some very simple set of presets that allow you to actually cater for most of the use cases within the app. Of course, there's more advanced users than others, and for those more advanced ones, or people that want to venture out and actually build their own environments, we also have a custom tab. We'll get to that in a bit. On the side, you'll see the light direction control. So similar to the flashlight that it has now, you'll be able to grab it and control it around. And then in the bottom, we'll have a quick switch between light modes. So currently, you might be familiar with the anchor and anchor situation that we have going on in the light controls. So we just make that a bit clearer. So basically, we have scene lighting, and then we have anchored lighting to your headset. So you can have a better readout of surfacing and so on. So if we move to the next slide, please. So starting with the presets. So this is just a quick overview. There's going to be more. We still don't know very well the amount of options we're going to allow you to have. But for the presets, mainly we are aiming to just have a very simple combinations. So imagine one of the presets might just be about color backgrounds. And in there, you're just going to have controls, very easy to understand, around just setting up a gradient for your background or setting up some solid colors, wanting shadows on the floor or not. And of course, always controlling the light around the scene. But then we have things that we are exploring now that are new. For example, a skybox, where you can actually control the light of the day and the lighting position within the sky. So these are things that we're starting to bring into the environments as a default even, that you can just quickly control, and everyone that's in the collab room with you will have access the same way as you do. And then last but not least, we're going to have some HDR preset environments already. Those will be built in-house, and we'll give you just some quick ways to control the lighting inside of those HDRs. If we move to the next one, please. going back to the light, as you can see now, currently actually on the current experience, you grab the light and you can position it in space, and you can put it closer or further away from the object. But the reality is it doesn't really change anything, right? So all we're tracking is just the position of the light and how that bounces on the object. So we're actually, for the first time, introducing light intensity inside of Gravity Sketch. So you can imagine as you grab the light, just with the joystick of the controller that you're actually grabbing the object with, just pull it up or down and you see the light intensity changing. So you can add or decrease the light intensity. And to add to that, if you go side by side, you'll be able to control the temperature of that light. So you can imagine this will be super powerful in combination with the materials that we introduced on the update before. So if we keep going to the next slide. So now jumping into the custom environments, obviously we have the presets, allows you to change everything on the fly, bounce around presets, etc. But for more advanced situations, we're actually giving you a space for you to build your own libraries. So here you can import your own HDRs, you can set up your own reflections, you can set up if you just want colors, for example, as a background, and you can even mix and match. And for example, once you add an HDRI, you'll be actually able to turn off the HDRI from the background and keep the reflections of the HDRI if you want to work and analyze surfaces in a certain way with the bounce back of the HDRI, but without the visual clutter around you all the time. So we're catering this to different workflows, and you'll be free to completely create without boundaries. And the big advantage of this is, even if you are in a collaborative environment, the custom presets are non-destructible. So you can actually create your own environments. People that are collaborating with you and within the same session with you will be able to copy it to their own libraries as well, but they will never be able to destroy your own creation. If you keep going for the next one, please. We're also trying to experiment on how do we make this experience even more engaging and immersive. These are things that might come a bit later on, but for example, now you know that you can go into pass-through just by grabbing the headset, right? So why not even changing your main presets on the headset directly? So you can imagine grabbing the headset and then just flick the little switch, the joystick in the headset that you're grabbing, and you can almost imagine the little presets snapping in, and then you just put it back on and you are in a completely different environment. So you can start already thinking about experiences, right, where you set up your environments, and then you can make really cool experiences of jumping between different environment setups. And then the other one is more some UX explorations around how we can control this in space directly. Last but not least, on the environments, if we move to the next one, this is more about the screen app. Obviously, a lot of these features will eventually come to the screen app, but that's coming later. But one thing we're already adding, and this is catering for a lot of the feedback we've been getting, is a light mode switch within the screen app itself. So a lot of our users are finding it a bit tricky or not understanding why they don't see the same things in VR as in screen from a lighting perspective. And part of the reason for that is that the VR, by default, the light is tracking you. So it's anchored to you and what you're looking at. While in screen, the default is just the scene lighting. So now you'll be able to actually switch between them on the fly inside of screen as well. So that will probably give you a lot more confidence when inspecting works and even in collaboration situations where you can actually inspect models a lot more accurately. So that's pretty much it for lighting environments. If we can go to the next one. So now we're going into LandingPad. So last year we revealed the concept during a round as well, actually, of the vision that we had for what the future of LandingPad could be. Again, this was just a concept in the beginning, but the main idea behind it is how can we make LandingPad a lot more than just a file management system, right? So integrating community, a place for inspiration, but also a place that can aid the collaboration and how you use your files and how other people are interacting with your own creations. So we're glad to announce that this year we're moving into implementation of the new LandingPad. So if we move to the next slide, I can show you a bit more of what it's looking like at the moment. So this is a bit more of a realistic view of what LandingPad looks like for us. So this is obviously, we had the concept, now we're bringing it down and actually making it usable. But as you can see, now we start having a completely different perspective, and you can already start thinking about different use cases of what LandingPad could be used for. So you're gonna start having this home dashboard by default. You still have your recent sketches on top, but now you can see some big CTAs, both to start a new sketch, but also to upload assets to the community. So and I'll get to that later, but one of the larger goals we have for LandingPad in the near future is that community becomes not just a place to browse content, but actually for you to participate actively and comment and like assets from other users and so on. So we're giving the first steps towards that. The first iteration is going to be very based on quality of life improvements of the current LandingPad, obviously a big UI reskin of the whole experience, and then start bringing those community assets to the forefront as a way of inspiring you and get assets quicker and accelerating workflows as well. So if we move to the next slide. This is just an overview of some quality of life improvements. For example, we are starting to work on notification systems, but also a lot of contextual information as you use the app, right? So if you think in the longer term, if we have these connected profiles across LandingPad, as soon as you have either on a community library, but also in your shared assets library or a room that's shared with you, you can right click on it and you have like a drop down of information about that room, both from size, amount of objects, but also creators. And you can imagine in the future, once you have profiles, you can tap on it and inspect people's creations and see what they have available in their profiles and so on. So we're bringing a social element to LandingPad that actually allows you to find people to collaborate with and actually get inspired by the work of other people. So think of it as socials through creation and inspiration. If you move to the next slide. A lot of the improvements we're doing as well is in finding assets within LandingPad. That's a big pain point that we've been getting with the current LandingPad. This is not everything we're doing, but there's just an overview around, for example, the filtering system. So we are investing in very advanced filtering systems within the whole experience. And of course, these would be contextual depending on where you are in LandingPad, right? So imagine if you are in recents, you have certain filters that are more, they are better for that type of experience. If you are in Shared With Me, you'll have others that will be a lot more useful. If you move to the next slide, please. Yeah, these ones will come a bit later, but actually the community entry point, we're probably going to start doing it now. But yeah, as you can start seeing, we're going to start having the community being a place where everyone can just get inspired directly from web. And the interesting part here is that we're not just focusing on community for LandingPad users. So now if you are a new person trying to find out about what Gravity Sketch is and trying to understand what the possibilities of the software are, you'll be able to access the community assets directly without even creating an account. So we're also thinking of these things from an acquisition perspective, but also how can we expand the community to a lot more people and also expand the reach of each community member and the assets that they create to other types of public. So we hopefully will be able to as well empower you to create a lot more and give you a platform to be heard as well. So if we move to the next slide. Yeah, just to give you a quick overview of how we're thinking about sectioning these updates. These things might move around, by the way, but basically the first version of the new LandingPad will happen sometime on the first half of 2025, and this will entail the new user interface, some of the fundamental features that we were talking about, so bringing the community to the dashboard, a lot of the quality of life improvements, etc. But they will be launched for individual users only, so we're not touching enterprise for now, because there's other considerations that we have to do there. But for V2, we already want to push all the new community features. So we're thinking public profiles, all of these experiences around commenting, etc. And this will be focusing on individual profiles as well. And then we're going to do the bulk of work in the end to actually expand these to enterprises and do a lot of enterprise-specific features as well inside the platform. That pretty much sums it up. This is basically our steps into moving of a more unified approach to the whole software. Obviously, when we think about these features, we're always thinking holistically and how everything fits together. Yeah, and I just put this slide here as a way to start seeing how everything is coming together, right? So you had the screen up coming into 6.4, and as we update these platforms, we're always trying to gauge how it fits within the larger brand story that we are trying to build. So yeah, thank you very much. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll pass it on to Shay again.
Thanks, Bruno and Dejo. That's always my favorite part of a round, is seeing what's coming. Of course, I get to be a part of the process and get to include it in a lot of the design reviews and things like this. But to see your all's response, reaction, and feedback when we're just about to go into the next phase of development or design is really precious. So I really appreciate everyone participating, giving us feedback. For those that are watching the recording, feel free. It's never too late. Join Discord. Let's have a discussion around this stuff. But what good is this stuff if we don't see it in process, if we don't see it actually put to the test? So we want to look at 6.4 under the microscope. We're going to put this through a workflow example with Žofia. Žofia works with our automotive design consultants across Europe, and she knows how to break the product. So she can take it to the very final dimension of what's possible in Gravity Sketch. And so we're going to try to do a little bit of that today, and just see how far we push 6.4 through an example of a small autonomous vehicle. We're going to try to spend the majority of this product demonstration around materials and reviewing materials and the collaborative nature between screen and VR. But I'm going to let us I'll let the work do the talking. So I'm going to just jump in straight into Gravity Sketch. Žofia's jumping in from the Quest 3. I'm jumping in from screen application. And so as you can see, a lot of the updates from 6.4 are well welcomed. So some new locations for icons here and there. We've got Žofia in the background here. This is the small vehicle that we've pulled together for this demonstration. And then many of you may or may not know, but if you hit tab, you go straight into immersive mode. So we're just going to be in immersive mode. We're going to chat with Žofia a little bit around the direction, the concept, and starting with a piece of imported data and some loose line work. So Žofia, feel free to walk us through how we got started with this particular concept.
So yeah, from the very beginning, it was super helpful that I could bring engineering data. So you see here, I have the rigged chassis, I have electric chassis here. So it was super helpful because then I could estimate the proportion, I could start to make the car feasible from the very first sketch. And what was also super helpful was when I bring these rigged mannequins, which are super intuitive to use. You just place them into the vehicle and you can start imagining how the whole concept will come to life. So this is super useful when you have, let's say, meeting with engineering, even with marketing, and you are very discussing on the very beginning of the journey the basic features and functionalities about the vehicle. And then I use the ink stroke and very loose sketches and strokes to make this concept, to make this wireframe, which helped me to visualize my idea super quickly. It's intuitive to use. It's almost like you are sketching on a paper, but you are sketching in a blank space. And then what I've done, I just bring some volume to make it look like this is a 2D sketch on 3D in 3D environment, which helped me to define the basic proportion and volume.
So these are just screenshots up here, right, Žofia? You just took a screenshot in Gravity Sketch, and you can see it has that sketch-like characteristic, but the benefit of doing a screenshot is you get multiple views of the same sketch. So one sketch gets you endless possibilities in terms of the position and view of that sketch. What I found really interesting is how fast you were able to get into surfacing, Žofia. So you jumped straight over into this loose subdivision model. You've worked with a lot of different tools, from Alias to some screen-based polygonal modeling tools, and where do you find the value or the benefit in working directly in VR to do some of this polygonal modeling?
So the one aspect of this polygonal modeling, it's super rapid, because such a loose sketch as I have here, I can achieve it, I would say, in 15 to 20 minutes. So first one is the speed, and then is the immersiveness and the feeling of the flow you get in VR. It's very captivating, and it will lock you here, and you can focus better. But it's also the creativity, because you are creating the volumes with your own body, with your basic proportions. So you can really keep it quite realistic from the very, very beginning. So yeah.
And what I noticed about the sub-D model is it has a lot left to be desired in terms of the visual fidelity. And this is where a lot of the work from 6.4 came into play. So if I kind of reveal some of the other work that was done on this project by jumping over to the next version here, we fleshed out the interior, and what you can do with existing Gravity sketches, apply a lot of these materials, especially at what we have in the interior, but these are just PNG textures. What were some of the challenges in feeling out the surfaces and getting the right materiality out of the work that you're demonstrating here, Žofia?
So I was kind of facing challenges with the reaching out level of the materials, which would be presentable for, let's say, the chief designer or the board members. Yeah, I was like, I always wanted more as designer. I always wanted better, more flashy, more metallic materials with better definition, better highlights. And I was maybe missing like the control over the reflections, over how rough I want how roughness would play the role in the material. We already had the opacity slider, we had the basic reflection material, we had the clay material, but it was kind of not selling my story, my design in the best light. So that's why I got super excited about the 6.4, because that allowed me to truly sell my story, to sell my design.
Nice. Well, let's look at some of the materials that are applied to with 6.4 improvements. So if we jump over to the next platform here, we can see that you're able to bring in a variety of different colors and materials. And I'll start by just highlighting that how much better the paint job looks on the vehicle.
Yeah, you already see we have kind of like this orange peel effect. We have much richer highlights, like the definition of the volume, it's much clearer. So it's easier for everybody to actually read the volume, to read the design intent in the whole sketch. Let's call this this is a 3D sketch. This is not fully refined alias model, but now it's more selling, it's giving, it's slaying,
Right.
It's very demure, very mindful.
So beyond just the kind of the nice adjustments that we've made to the exterior of this vehicle, I've noticed that also the interior is a lot more impactful as well. And so, the texture on the seating elements, of course, we kept the same wood grain. You've enhanced some of the reflections on the glass as well. And what I like about this particular workflow here is that I can actually start engaging directly from the screen. So I'm going to bring in an asset because I think that it would be great to see a screen here. So I love the kind of the UI UX to be brought in as well. So what I can do now with 6.4 is I'll come up here and I'm going to bring in an image. This is just an image made in Photoshop of an interface. So I'll go ahead and import that. And with the new import system, it imports directly in the center location. I have the abilities to rotate and move things around. But once I confirm it, Žofia has full access to use it in her design proposal. So she can grab it now. It's completely available to her. And I'll just come over here and I'm going to follow Žofia so I could follow how she's manipulating it.
Yeah, I'm just sliding it here. And this is great because I already did a couple of sessions like this with my colleagues. And I don't need to jump to the screen like to bring some logo or some 2D asset or even 3D assets. Also 3D assets works like this. Like Shay could easily bring me some seed or wheel or anything. So I can just easily grab it, position it, and we can have a conversation with Shay. He's super busy. He doesn't have time to jump in headset. He needs to be on screen. And now he wants to give me feedback. Like, Shay, what do you think about the corners and about the radius?
Yeah, so I think, if it's not a technology limitation, I'd love to see the OLED screen go a little bit beyond. I'd like to see it actually frame with this panel. We have the volume rockers here, but it'd be great to see it frame with the panel and blend in with the volume rockers a little bit. So everything is kind of fully integrated. And I think the feedback I'd give the UI UX team is, now seeing this in context, I do think that we can extend some UI elements to the corners and actually take advantage of this outline.
Oh, so we can also like make it like more inclusive and environment friendly. So like we can also test it with the mannequins, like if they can actually reach out the button, if it's easy for them to navigate here.
Exactly.
Okay, so you want this to be like faster here.
Yeah. And what's great about what Žofia is doing here is that we're capturing these notes in real time. So this is all feedback that we're getting in real time. It's saved with the sketch, and we can pass that on when we do end up taking this into more formal output. We can also take screenshots and share that with the UI UX team, or export it directly as a FBX file to the alias modeling team or whoever is going to take this project forward.
Yeah, and this is great because you can keep the visual clues. You can keep the visual annotation. You can redline. So this is equivalent to clay taping, yeah? Like in real physical studio, we would need to tape this. Shay would need to be there physically. I would need to be there. But right now I'm in Bratislava, Shay's in London, and we can just meet in this virtual phygital space. And it basically feels the same, but also the communication is better because I have all of these written and sketchy annotation and clues. So I actually will remember this meeting and I can make the improvements.
Yeah, long gone are the days of a bunch of asynchronous meetings after the major meeting. So what I would also like to see here is a lot of different iterations. So you've taken some time to put this material together, but I've actually would like to see a different palette. And so by leaning into the work that's been done on 6.4, we can bring up a whole materials library that Žofia's curated over here, and we can start experimenting and playing with these different materials. So Žofia, you've curated a really wonderful set of materials, and I like that you've gone beyond just the spheres to give us some shapes and forms so we can see how these lay on different surfaces and different surface tension.
Yeah, I have to give credit to my dear colleagues, to Hanka and Ali, for creating a lot of these materials. But I just want to emphasize how beautiful we have now the hue shift in the metallic, in the reflection material. You can now control it. You really bring more life and more depth to your designs. And yeah, we've created all of this. These are simple Photoshop black and white textures. You can create them, you can download them from the internet, and you are just good to go. You can, and what's beautiful, you can edit all of these textures. You can, scale them, rotate them. Beautiful. Also, something so simple as a glass. You can bring the dust or like the small imperfection, which will make it more realistic. So we are coming closer to realism, and I cannot wait for the improved lighting and the environment. Like it will give it one more step to being more engaging with your presentation, more professional. It'll be amazing.
So Žofia, can we just apply a couple of these materials before we wrap this up? I'd love to see. Let's see the dusted glass on the canopy here.
Yeah, of course. So I have this pre-selection, and this is actually I would say this is now my favorite part of Gravity Sketch, because this is almost like dressing your Barbie or dressing your doll. You just create your presets. We also created these libraries here in the menu. Look how many I have here, from the nature to exterior, interior, and I have a small selection. And look how easy it is. You will open the color menu, and now you will see this brush, and you can just slick with the joystick. Now I have the eyedropper, and I pick the glass. I think maybe it's a bit difficult for you to read on the gray background, but I am swatching the glass, the dusty glass, and now I switch it back to the brush, and look, it just applied, yeah? And again, super easy. Or I can swatch this beautiful yum plum, as we call it, and just apply it on the material. So you can have a beautiful hue shift from the blue to the rich purple color. And it's, I don't know, it's super intuitive. It's like when you're a kid and you are coloring and you just want this magic touch, magic finger, and you can change everything.
So what I want to highlight here is that Žofia and I have had a very fruitful conversation me on screen, Žofia in headset, and this could be multiple people on screen. Everyone has a computer. So I really encourage everyone to explore the collaboration beyond just VR to VR. VR to screen is really powerful. Now I'm able to interact with Laser Pointer. I'm also able to drop in assets so that she can grab them and apply them. I of course have a VR headset, so I can jump in there if I do feel that my message isn't getting across fully. And if you guys want to learn a little bit more about how to apply some of these tools in the workflow, how to work collaboratively across the screen and VR, we're more than happy to have a conversation. So I'd encourage you guys to reach out. Teamwork really does make the dream work, and we're big proponents of collaboration here at Gravity Sketch. So it could be a heavy lift when we're moving between old processes and new processes, but I really encourage everyone who's really excited about challenging the way their team works to reach out to us, and let's have a conversation around it. And so I'll ask MC to drop one of our contacts in the chat here, and you can reach directly out to us, and we can share a little bit more and go in more in depth with you and your team. But for the time being, Žofia, thank you so much. I'd love to open this up to some questions. Welcome Bruno and Deho back to the stage. We're happy to talk everything from how to apply these features and functions to, are these next set of things the right things for us to be working on? Or what are we missing? What kind of material settings, environment settings do you feel are lacking in our product? So with that being said, I'm going to stop sharing. We'll try to let's make this room available for everyone, Žofia. We might be able to put it to a library. So all of you that are watching, all of you are watching now, you'll have full access to the materials and the library and this vehicle that Žofia has wonderfully put together for us. Yeah, let's welcome Deho and Bruno back to the stage, and I will stop sharing screen. And open to questions, everyone. Let's see. I'm trying to read a few. There's just a lot of praise. I mean, everyone's really happy with the improvements. So well done, keen insight. Maybe I'll start with the first question. Deho, you did a lot of work in speaking with customers that were trying to do what we just did in terms of workflow, and of course, a lot of what came out of 6.4 was a big result of that. Where do you think that there's still a lot more room to grow with the existing tool set that we've brought into 6.4? I know we're bringing environments, but there's probably a little bit more we can do into the materiality. Is there something that we want to bring to screen in that respect? Is there more interactivity that needs to be brought? What are some of the things that we just didn't have enough time to get to?
Yeah, a few things. So I think one of the big things we had plans for, and we still have plans for, is how much of material and environment and color, like editing, should we translate over to the screen app? I think this concept of setting up a scene, a room, through the screen, you import your models that you want. They're kind of coming up in a monitor size that you're familiar with. So it's very intuitive to get a better feel for what scale they're coming in at. And then, moving things around and into the right places, setting up maybe some lighting and environments and so on. This kind of workflow is something that's it's quite interesting, I think, because then, we really jump into VR either to take advantage of the immersive one-to-one element that you can get there, or to do the more heavy creation activities that it's just more kind of fluid and enjoyable in VR, right? Whereas the more, let's say, executional stuff, like importing stuff, moving things around, that can be done through the screen. But it does raise a question as well of where does the line of creation start and stop? So you could argue, changing colors of individual objects or applying different textures is a creation activity. Or you can argue it's kind of more like I just want to see what this looks like if it were like this. It's more like a review that kind of thing, right? So yeah, I'd be really interested to hear kind of the viewpoints from the folks kind of listening in as well. So that's definitely one big thing that's on our mind. And then, yeah, just continuing to tweak and iterate, right? So after we launched the materials feature, one big request that came in was, okay, we've made the rotation scaling of textures like a lot more gestural. It used to be a slider. And people were really enjoying that, but then it was like, okay, but now it's a little harder to kind of really control and get what I want. So could we add like, snap scaling or snap rotation? So there's, those are coming soon. And it's just things like that I think we'll continue to iterate on as we get more and more feedback.
Nice. Yeah, AJ in the chat asked a question around what file types are we limited to when kind of building out the textures. And I imagine that, a lot of folks that are working in 3D want to bring their existing materials over. I think for the time being, we do have a limited set of file types that are compatible. But yeah, this is not a new request in terms of bringing some of their old materials over, but also just giving enough information on how to build your own material libraries like Žofia has done in the product. And I'll leave that open to anyone that wants to answer that question.
Yeah, basically how we created all of the materials you've seen, it's by using JPEG or PNG textures. I highly recommend you either search or create seamless ones so you don't have the tile effect. And what's also good to know is like I wouldn't bring something 4K, try to stick 1K or 2K just for the optimal performance of the room. You can try some like kind of invisible textures, so some parts are invisible, something it's full color, like some kind of mesh. These are pretty cool. You can use them as stickers on your products. Yeah, you can have a lot of fun.
Nice. We had another question around like the timeline of this stuff coming to enterprise customers. So we typically roll out to our free community, and then enterprise comes with a fast follow-up.
Yeah, I can take that one. Sorry, my internet's kind of dropping in and out a bit. But so everything you saw in terms of the lighting, the environments, that's all stuff that's launching to everybody on the same day. It's a core part of the experience, and not something that we want to necessarily put behind a business gate or anything. The new LandingPad stuff that you guys kind of saw, that will be coming to enterprise and businesses a bit later. The reason is that it's quite a big project, as you can imagine, because we're entirely rebuilding the whole product. And so we want to do it in stages. With enterprise comes a lot more basically a lot more features and a lot more work, right? Because there's all the like admin control settings, different teams, and all the sharing permissions between that. And so we want to first launch like the core of it to the broader community. That will also allow us to gain a lot of feedback, iterate, make it better, and so on. And then we'll be building features on top of that, including more business enterprise features. So yeah, it's coming hopefully later in the year, towards the back half of the year or early next year to business, but to the broader user base, it'll be coming a bit sooner.
Awesome,
Yeah,
thanks.
Just to add to that as well, I mean, it's important that we reframe community within enterprises as well, right? Because you can think of an enterprise as almost like a smaller community within a company itself. So yeah, we're going to learn a lot by shipping it first to the wider community. And then as we adapt those features, we can actually build other experience that can be even more advantageous for enterprises themselves.
Nice, thanks. Another question here. In the early days of GraviSketch, we always limited what our avatars look like because we really want everyone to focus on the work. It wasn't really a tool for like kind of making a really exciting looking avatar or something like that, but it was more like the work is the work, and like just focus on the work, and that kind of speaks volumes. But that being said, a question still very relevant. Is there any ideas, thoughts around customizing the avatar beyond the color itself?
I mean, we have the option of using the meta avatars. So when you set the avatar in the meta lobby, you can actually choose from a large option. So you can choose the hair texture, eye color, everything, dress style, and you can see these avatars inside Gravity Sketch. In the menu, you can just enable them in the setting menu.
Yeah, I would say with some of the profile updates, we could bring some of that over. What would we bring over from the profile updates, Bruno, if we were to allow some of that to transfer over to our avatars?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something on the cards. We just need to make sure, again, the reason why we don't put the meta avatars on by default is exactly what Shay said, right? It becomes a bit intrusive, especially if you start having collab sessions with more than 3 people. You can imagine the session that Shay and Sophia were doing. All of a sudden, you start seeing massive avatars as soon as you scale or down or whatever. That said, I don't think it's out of the cards for us to keep exploring that venue. And I think especially from a customization standpoint, and tying in these avatars with the public profiles, I think there's definitely something there that we can explore.
Awesome. Another question is around the ability to tile along a stroke. So I believe this is something still very much kind of deeply bedded into the editing panel for strokes, but apparently this is really helpful for soft goods. So I guess tiling textures, tiling along a stroke. Any thoughts here? I know that we auto tile, I believe, but maybe this attendee has more questions around that capability.
I believe it's like if you're talking about extruding from a spline, we still have that.
It's not clear if it's texture or not texture, but duplicating along a spline, I think it might be. Yeah. Maybe if you can add a little bit more to that question.
Happy to answer it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Another big topic, and this is a huge topic internally. This Gravity Sketch collab functionality. When will it come to the browser? Will it come to the browser? What are our thoughts there?
Yeah. So yes, is a short answer of it. It's more a question of when. So basically, so now you can do it through the screen app, right? But there's a bit of friction because you need to like download and install it. We want to bring in through just the web browser. And it's possible. The thing we are doing a bit of R&D work on at the moment is which technologies we can use to make that happen. Basically, there's a bit of a trade-off between like cost and like performance, like the real-time performance of it, because you can imagine some of these rooms can get like very heavy and have like a lot of people like creating, editing at the same time. And so, on a web browser, that can become quite a lot. So we need to make sure that, we basically have to write like tech setup in the back end to enable that at scale. It's a little hard to give like exact timelines because we are still doing like R&D work on it. But my ambition would be definitely to get it out like sometime this year, sooner the better, really. But exact timelines kind of depends on what comes out of our R&D work.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'll ask another question. I just asked this question because I've also asked it internally to both of you. There's amazing materials now, and the environments are coming and looks really incredible. What elements of that, or what features from that will make its way over to the screen, or will it make its way over the screen? I asked this out of my personal ambition because I do like to kind of dress up the sketch from the screen sometimes. It's like really quickly to kind of drag and drop things, and like I know exactly what the framing of the image is going to look like if someone's going to consume it on a screen themselves. So I just want to get your guys' take on this and see if there's a bit of a discussion to be had with the community.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a texture material standpoint, I think you should be able to change colors and apply textures and so on through the screen. Because if you're reviewing something and you think, oh, you know, what would it look like if it was blue instead of, I don't know, purple? Having to then put on a VR headset to go change it to go back onto the screen to show someone is a bit of a cumbersome workflow, I think. And then, yeah, on the environments as well, we definitely do have plans to bring in a lot of what we have in VR. Feature parity, what would you say, Bruno? Yeah. You're muted.
Sorry, I keep coughing once in a while, so I need to mute myself. Yeah, I mean, I guess feature parity is right. I think it's more around the amount of options available on the custom side of things. Yeah, we just need to learn from it, really. I think VI is going to be a good benchmark and really understand how people push it, because currently all the editing functions are there. But there's definitely a case for screen. We know that. We've been asked for that. I think it's just a matter of what should be there or not without adding too much unnecessary complexity. But
yeah, my observation here is that VR is a great experience, especially when you want to get immersive and see things at scale and be gestural. But a large part of our workflow as creatives is still consumed on the screen. And so it's a very delicate balance between screen and VR. And as a company, we're trying to play as well as we can in hopes that we facilitate a really strong and healthy workflow for you without kind of stepping on the toes of the other tools that you use in your workflow, unless you don't want to use those tools anymore. I think it's really important that we don't start to go head to head with a more robust rendering platform, which is what all they do is focus on that. And then, you know, we start getting relegated to Gravity Sketch can't render like such and such. And so I think it's a really delicate balance that we struggle on as a business to kind of make sure that we give you what's necessary to complete the task of communicating this idea effectively to someone else, because ultimately we won't build a crazy rendering platform like, you know, some of the other tools that you might have in your portfolio of tools that you use. Last question looks like has come in, and this is maybe a little bit more towards the persona side of things. But there's a question around if it will ever be possible to have some XYZ information for objects in order to better control assemblies precisely. This would be very useful for engineering and ergonomic design. I believe what this user is asking for is information about the location of the XYZ location of an object as it's positioned in space compared to the origin, and maybe even the ability to move things in a bit more precise way.
Sorry, I'm just reading the question again. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I do think there will be like more and more use cases like this, especially as like AR collaboration really takes off. And by the way, there's a lot of really cool things kind of coming from Meta on this. But yeah, like for example, we've definitely heard about use cases where if you have an object and you want to place that object like exactly in relation to, I don't know, an exact place in the room, and you want to mark that out as like, this is the 000 origin of that object. Because then you can actually start like measuring, you know, where everything is in relation to that, so you can start creating in relation to that. I think for us, the challenge will be more around the UX of how we enable that, to be honest, like, because it's like a very I think the more we go into the realm of numbers and being very precise and specific and so on, the balance we need to take is how can we retain kind of the gestural feel of the application whilst allowing for folks who want to go deeper into certain specific parts of it, more control and accuracy. But yeah, I mean, I do think it is something that we would come. I think it also comes kind of hand in hand a little bit with like the grid point that I think someone else mentioned, Francis mentioned in the chat. It's all very similar for me because it's essentially talking about like how do we place objects like in relation to the origin point? How do we like move or create in like very precise increments from then on and so on. It's definitely topics that we're thinking a lot about. Yeah, it's just a UX challenge of that, I think.
Yeah, thanks. Well, that brings us to the end of the session. Thank you all. Thanks, Bruno, Deho, Žofia. Thanks for joining and being so engaged with the community. Thank you all for asking questions and engaging with us. What I will say is that this conversation does not stop here. Again, a lot of what we're doing from like what's coming to the product just with the next release comes directly from you all. And so I would encourage everyone to continue the conversation in Discord. You can send us emails as well. Just send an email through support. We're happy to read your feedback. And also, if you can capture some of the things in your workflow, that's also super helpful. I always encourage people to send a video, send an image, just show us what you're trying to achieve and how you're doing it with conventional tools today. And that gives us a better understanding of A, does it belong in Gravity Sketch? And B, if it does, what actually do we need to cover? Because we may need to build the whole feature. There might just be something very specific about this thing that you're trying to achieve that we can bring in through other means. So I really encourage you guys to keep this conversation going. Without your guys' input, we definitely wouldn't be where we are today, and we wouldn't really have such a strong roadmap that we have now. So thank you all for engagement. Really looking forward to the next time we get together like this.
Yeah, thanks everyone. And yeah, see you at the next one.
Yeah, bye.